Hey guys, welcome back to another Jewish Crash Out. I'm Jack the Jew, and on this one, we're gonna do something different because it's Thursday, and we're gonna try to be a little bit more positive before the weekend. Also, today is Tisha B'Av, and this is coming out probably in the later part of the day. So, after having all the sorrow and thinking about the destruction and everything the Jews have been through on this day. Which is, we'll get into what the day is if you're interested. At the end of the video, we'll go over that. But, yeah, so I think that we need to let in some light and look at some of the good news. And on that, we're going to crash in with, instead of crashing out, we're going to crash in with Tal the Traveling Clat, I think, is what I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So, the traveling Talaran, the traveling cloud. So, if you want to look him up, he's going to look at Nick Fuentes, who more and more is becoming okay with the Jews, or at least Israel, or he's turning a bit, and we'll see like the towards us, and maybe understanding where we're coming from a little bit more, and. Yep, we'll watch in on that, and then different other good news that's happening, and Asmon Gold, and different things that are positive news on this end of Tisha B'Av, and we're gonna get ready tomorrow for Friday is gonna be Erev Shabbat. So just like in Judaism, we go from sorrow to happiness. So it's okay to do a good news segment right now, especially probably everybody's in their last, or if you're in America, different time zones. In Israel, it's probably you're at the end of your fast, and we'll go into that in a little bit. But yeah, let's crash in with Traveling Clat, and Nick Fuentes wakes up to Islam at least. And yep, if you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe and comment. It really helps the channel. Yeah, let's get started.
It seems to me that a lot of people are hungry for a Nick Fuentes flip, and that is what we're seeing in this clip. Is he regretting his words about the Jews, about Israel? Let's take a look.
What changed in 2024 and 2025 is it became really in vogue and really popular for people to talk about Jews in Israel in a negative way, also just to talk about conspiracies in general.
Yep.
Suddenly, that became the grift. And it attracted people that were looking for notoriety, people that were looking to build a social platform. How do we know this? We'll look at Jackson Hinkle. Jackson Hinkle, I think,
hilarious that these people hate each other, but he's right.
Gained like 3 million.
But also Nick Fuentes did this.
Twitter followers in 9 months. What explains the explosion in engagement for people criticizing Israel? No one's going to like to hear this. You're going to call me a grifter. You're going to call me a shill. You're going to say controlled opposition, switch sides. Honest to God truth. This is the truth. Probably it was being driven from foreign countries and the left.
What?
That's just true. Why, oh why, all of a sudden did it become supercharged? If you criticize Israel on Twitter, boom, 100,000 likes. You could literally tweet, fuck Israel, 100,000 likes. Did everyone in America all of a sudden start hating Israel? Well, some people did. But I think it was driven in part, or maybe a lot, by the Muslim world, which is very engaged online because they were the ones at war with Israel, because Palestine is their regional cause. Palestine is their religious, ethnic struggle. So I think a lot, like Jackson Hinkle, how many of his 3 million followers that he gained in those 9 months, how many of them came from the United States of America? People knew what
5% maybe
he was up to before. All of a sudden, you have this regional conflict between Israel and the Arab League, effectively, or you could say the axis of resistance would be more precise.
Correct.
Now, all of a sudden, anyone going after Israel supercharged, and we all know it's being driven by these Muslims. We all know.
Well, specifically Qatar, Iran, Turkey, and people that just generally live in Egypt and stuff like that, and the general populace.
We all see it on Twitter. That's who's promoting it. That's who's doing it.
Pakistani specifically.
Oh yeah, also the Pakistanis. Yeah.
Pakistani Muslims.
And so suddenly, anybody that wanted to blow up and be, what's the hot topic? What's the woke take right now? What's the edgy take? What's the take that's going to get me the most notoriety? It's shitting on Israel. It's joining the Israel critical cause. Being a Jew conspiracy theorist. And what grifters know how to do is just milk it for everything. That was like the wrong, milk it like a cow. I shouldn't do any milking. No milking. But they were, that's crazy. They were milking it. Hey, listen, here's the important part. They were milking it for everything it was worth. Here's what I mean by this. If tweeting Israel critical sentiment gets them engagement and money, then like a mouse or a cat or any animal in one of these experiments, if they press a button and get a treat, they're trained that this is what they're going to do every single day.
That's right.
So if I'm an influencer on Twitter, I want to grow my following, I want to make my X revenue dollars. How do I get my reward? How do I get my treat? I press the button.
Mind you, I give Nick Fuentes certain points for talking about this. He was the one in a club just a few months ago singing Hail Hitler.
Right. Again, Nick Fuentes was all a part of this. He was doing this as much as any of the other grifters.
And while I don't think any of that makes any of them neo-Nazis, I think they're just a little bit retarded. All of them, the Clabs, the Sneakos, the Fuenteses, the Myron Gaines.
It's groupthink.
I don't think any of them are really Nazis. I think they're just all retarded.
I wouldn't say retarded. I would say groupthink. I think they were part of a group that went, and then, like Nick Fuentes is talking about, if you said anything about Israel, anti-Israel, you'd get thousands of likes, hundreds of thousands of likes. You might go viral, etc. And that's what's happening nowadays.
Mind you, everything he's saying is on the backdrop of that.
Button every day. Every day I press the button.
Yeah, but it doesn't make what he's saying wrong. And if anything, he's an inside guy talking. I'm surprised that he's saying this.
What's the button? JFK said Hitler's spirit will rise from the grave. Fuck Israel. Jews did everything.
Yep.
Liberty was intentional.
I remember Nick Fuentes talking about world Jewry at one point, but okay, listen, I'm up for second chances. I'm not one for, if you reform yourself, no problem.
Every day, press that button. And always escalating. Always going in the same direction. Does it ever get refined? Is nuance introduced?
Do we look into what genocide actually means?
Counter-arguments entertained. Do we discuss the limitations of this theory? No.
Of course not.
Press the button. And if we're not getting the same reward, press the button harder. Press the button twice. Press the button 12 times.
Yep.
Slam the button. So it just got louder and louder. Oh, well, it started with, I think we should be able to criticize Israel. Then it turned into, fuck Israel. Then it turned into, well, it's all Jews. Then it turns into, well, Hitler did nothing wrong. Then it turns it, Israel killed Charlie Kirk. Israel's behind ICE. Israel's why we extradited Maduro. And I think that basically that is what happened.
All right.
What I don't
I'm astounded that he
understand where it's coming from with Nick Fuentes. What I really don't understand is he's like literally the one who made this popular. That's what I don't understand. His bitch ass is the one who was sitting.
It is a bit confusing, but you know what? Wherever truth comes from, that's where I'll take it.
There, pretending as if Israel is responsible for all the. Oh, sorry. I still have my braces on. I'm getting them rid this week. Sorry for the little spittle there. Coming off in 2 days. I'm very excited for that. Won't have a lisp
Oh my god
anymore when I talk. What I don't understand is that literally Nick Fuentes' whole thing was having all these woes with Israel for controlling America and for he never talked about the limitations of this theory. He just kept throwing shit on Israel and everything kept sticking because people were hungry for a scapegoat.
Yeah, and he used the word world Jewry over and over again.
This scapegoat thing is as a tale as old as time. Everybody knows that they're just trying to scapegoat Israel. Does Israel not deserve criticism? It deserves criticism, for sure. The people deserve criticism. Jews deserve criticism. I'm all about criticizing Jewish people. I think we act terribly frequently. But I just don't understand where this grift comes from him. if you want to ask my honest opinion, I think he sees the end of his retarded movement. I think he sees that there's a good chance that this next...
That's the bigger thing. I think that this anti-Israel trend is... There was a big anti-Semitic wave after October 7th. I don't think anti-Semitism is going away, but I think the wave of it is starting to go down. I mean, you can see it in the statistics. 2004 was... I think 2023... Sorry, not 2023 was probably the worst, but there was only October, November, December, and then 2024 was probably the worst, and 2025 has started to go down, and I'm having a feeling that we're going to start seeing maybe less I don't know. I'm hoping less anti-Semitic attacks, obviously.
Next election, no Tucker Carlson, no J.D. Vance is going to be taking a popular spot. No far-right, white nationalist, neo-Nazi movement. Not that he is a part of that.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to go away exactly, but I think it's losing its coolness and edginess. It's not edgy now to say, it's crazy to say that Israel killed Charlie Kirk. It's crazy to talk about Goy slop. It's crazy to talk about the Jews control everything, or everything happened, the Jews are behind it, or Mossad killed Lindsey Graham. It's starting to become ridiculous to the point that even people that follow it are losing interest in it.
In my opinion. But none of that is going to be making it anywhere further. And there's a good chance that Marco Rubio is going to win. And I think he just like a lot of the tech companies before Trump's secondary win, is starting to backpedal on the shit that he thinks might not pan out for him in the long run. And he may be looking to cozy up to a more comfortable spot, which I understand. I don't respect these people. I don't respect Nick Fuentes. I don't respect Clavicular. I don't respect Myron Gaines, Amr Fudel. I don't respect Andrew Tate. I don't respect...
Yeah, but two of these people are now moving away. You just watched Nick Fuentes. Clavicular just came to Israel. I don't care about Myron Gaines. I don't care about Sneeko. In the long run, if Sneeko or Myron Gaines decides that they want to come to Israel to see the truth, I'm more than happy. As long as they're not twisting it and making it that they're going to make it into anti-Israel slop.
Any of these Sneeko, I don't respect any of these motherfuckers whose entire identity is a grift. But you guys need to make the differentiation. Those of you guys seeing it at home to understand, there is a culture now of being disingenuous. I grew up on an internet. I grew up on a YouTube, a 2006, 2007, 2008 YouTube. And through to 2015 where vlogging and all that thing became very popular. I grew up on that kind of YouTube where being honest and genuine and being your real true self was the brand. That's what sold. But we live in a new reality. We live in a reality now where grifting makes you money. We're pretending and running to whatever is the popular.
All right, let's go to the next thing. So there's some other more good news. Is Syria under al-Jawlani.
To Syria now, where all...
captured a shipment for going to Hezbollah. So, this has happened this week this week. This past week. And,
Authorities say they've stopped an attempt to smuggle a large shipment of weapons to Hezbollah from Iraq. The Interior Ministry says specialised units intercepted the shipment at the border crossing between Syria and Iraq. They uncovered long-range missiles and drones inside a vehicle en route to Lebanon, destined for Hezbollah. Hezbollah denies any activities in Syrian territory. Well, Heidi Pett has more from Fraun in southern Lebanon.
Yeah, Hezbollah's never been in Syria. What? Syria what?
This seizure by Syria is part of a broader reshaping of the region that has occurred over the last couple of years, particularly the fall of the Assad regime in Syria. It used to be a very popular land route for Iran to traffic weapons and cash to its partner here in Lebanon, Hezbollah. They went from Iran across Iraq through Syria and then here into Lebanon. And under the Assads, they had very little trouble with that. But since the new president, Ahmed al-Sharaa, took power in Syria, he has been cracking down on that cross-border smuggling. This isn't actually the first time that they've made announcements about having prevented this. In fact, not long after the war broke out here again in March, he announced that his authorities had located and managed to destroy tunnels in the mountains between Lebanon and Syria that Hezbollah had been using to traffic weapons. And the drying up of that route has proved to be a difficulty for them here in getting resupplies of weapons, of cash that would ordinarily be making their way here in southern Lebanon, that they would be using to fight against Israeli military who are positioned on the hills. Just behind me here, you can see the parts of southern Lebanon that the Israelis are continuing to occupy. Now, President Ahmed al-Sharaa in Syria is under a lot.
Why would they do that?
Of pressure to take even more action, in fact, not just stopping the smuggling routes, but in fact, the US President Donald Trump is putting a lot of pressure on him to intervene militarily here inside Lebanon. Up to this point,
please, I'd love to see it.
He has resisted that pressure. He said that it's not something that he's interested in. Hezbollah, for its part, has denied that it is active on Syrian territory.
Because they would get their butts whooped by Hezbollah, because they'd be in Hezbollah territory, and they would...
And it has described these allegations as fabricated.
Yeah,
Heidi Pett,
sure
Al Jazeera.
It's all fabricated. And this is Asmund Gold, watching this guy that explains perfectly why it's in the American interest to go and fight Iran.
It's crazy how nobody can see that.
China had provided Iran with manufacturing equipment and manufacturing expertise that had caused a steep curve upwards in their ballistic missile production capacity, and that they were only a few months into that production capacity. If you allowed them to continue that for even 2 years, they would build an arsenal that is so vast that we could never afford to take action. They could build nuclear weapons with impunity, they could strike US or allied bases with impunity, and we just wouldn't be able to do anything. This is like the North Korea scenario. North Korea has so much artillery built up in the hills that we really can't even dream of doing anything against them, right? They build nukes. We can't do anything about it because they're going to pound Seoul into pieces with weapons from 50 years ago. And so I think the steel man is, we could not let the Iran situation turn into North Korea on steroids.
Exactly. It's crazy.
Yep. So people are starting to see it. This guy I've seen before, but I just thought it was a good clip, and
Israel all they like. However, I have a question. These group of 15 million Jews, they don't proselytize. They don't want you to become Jewish. For a very long time, did not have a government to defend them. Tyrants did everything possible to exterminate them, and they continue to not just exist but thrive, and thrive better than the majority of the people around them. How do they do that? With all the challenges and all the wars. So if you believe that God has nothing to do with these people and that they are the enemies of God, you should think again. Clearly there's something between them and God. People can hate Israel all they like. However, I have a question. These group of 15 million Jews, they don't proselytize. They don't want you to become...
So it recircles itself. So, and then this is the UN finally had to admit that Hamas is the one stopping the food shipments and messing with them and stealing them.
Even the United Nations has finally been forced into accepting and reporting the reality of what's happening in Gaza, turning the anti-Israel
This also happened recently.
narrative on its head. I'll show you that in a moment. But first, let's look at how the Bondi Royal Commission has been sitting in Melbourne this week examining anti-Semitism on university campuses. Now, as you know, our unis have been hotbeds of when in fact it has provided warnings and safe passages continuously to keep civilian casualties to a minimum, like no other war has seen before.
Yep, that's Israel.
The protesters have also accused Israel of failing to deliver enough aid when there has been evidence all along, clear filmed evidence, along with eyewitness accounts, that Hamas has been the problem. Its heavily armed terrorists have been stealing and commandeering aid from the Palestinian people to use it for its own terrorists, to stockpile it, and to sell it at extortionate prices to fund its terrorism. Well, the United Nations, which, as you know, has so often blamed Israel for all the ills in Gaza, has finally been forced to admit reality. The Deputy Aid Coordinator for the Middle East has strongly condemned the recent obstruction of humanitarian operations in Gaza by the de facto authorities, as they call them, saying they endangered humanitarian personnel, intimidated workers delivering life-saving food assistance, and disrupted life-saving humanitarian operations. The UN said humanitarian workers were forced to halt food distributions after armed personnel affiliated with the de facto authorities, there goes the de facto authorities again, these de facto
it's Hamas.
authorities forcibly entered a food distribution point in North Gaza and a World Food Programme warehouse, and they assaulted truck drivers delivering humanitarian supplies. Importantly, the UN says these incidents are not isolated. Of course they're not isolated. We've been talking about them and showing them here for years. And it's the United Nations that has repeatedly failed to criticise what it calls the de facto authorities, but which you and I would call the Hamas terrorists. The UN has always blamed Israel instead. And just in case you're in any doubt about the role of Hamas and how the world media wants to blame Israel instead, have a look at this exchange when the UN spokesperson spoke about this latest statement.
He wasn't referring to various armed militias. He was referring, you should read his statement. He was referring to the de facto authorities who are in control.
Which means Israel. That's what I want to understand.
No, I think it does not mean Israel. I would take it as meaning Hamas.
First time the UN ever said anything correct.
They are your problem.
But I love the journalist's face in this.
I want to understand.
No, I think it does not mean
It's
Israel.
It's not Israel? It's not Israel? But I thought I'm in the UN. It's always Israel. I don't understand. Who's the de facto?
Would take it as meaning
What? Who?
Hamas.
Yeah. It means Hamas.
Yeah, Hamas. They are your problem. Who would have thought it, hey? A bloodthirsty Islamist terrorist group that deliberately started the war by slaughtering 1,200 people and taking more than 251 hostages, including 85 of them being killed, and among them women and children. Who would have thought that this terrorist outfit that still attacks Israel and perpetuates the suffering of its people, that still executes any Palestinian dissenters, who would have thought that Hamas would be the problem, hey? Well, the UN, just this...
Well, as usual, Asmongold is starting... He used to not be so... He still doesn't like AIPAC or ADL and stuff like that, which I have my issues as well, but this is starting to get around. People are starting to understand that we're on the right side. Israel's doing the right thing.
Wow, no way. In an unprecedented move, the UN has finally admitted that Hamas is blocking aid into Gaza. They describe a system of arresting drivers, intimidating and threatening aid workers, and limiting aid. Israel has been vindicated once again. Wow, no way. In an unprecedented move, the UN has finally admitted that Hamas...
Yeah, so that was that. And then this was an article that I wanted to show that was very interesting. Inspired by IDF training, Israeli activist spearheads fight against global wildlife crime. And so Ophir Jory, who must be that guy, established a network that put 3,000 major animal traffickers behind bars, but now he is struggling to keep his operation afloat. I don't know why, but this is a very good article. Yep. So, Israelis are doing good around the world while everybody else, again, is trying to go after them. I think this is him, maybe. Let's watch a little bit. It's a bit long.
One major wildlife trafficker arrested and put in prison. And I want to share with you my journey to this adventure, to this cause, and ask you to take part of it. I think that animals have the power to transform us. They touch our hearts, they light passion in us. Sometimes they can even make us better human beings. And this is the animal that transformed me, a baby chimp named Kita. I rescued her and managed to get her trafficker into jail. In fact, her trafficker got the honor to become the first ever trafficker to get to jail in all of Central and West Africa. So I became a father and mother to Kita, and every baby chimp is special. And Kita was special in that she loved tickling. So every morning she would drag me by the hand and take me to bed and throw herself to bed to be tickled. And chimps have a special laugh, and you can listen to her special. And little Nicole here, she was coming against this dark prophecy that they will disappear. And arriving in Cameroon, it was very easy to see the dire consequences of this illegal. One big zero. Zero live prosecutions, zero traffickers behind bars. And it was a very clear indication. And I reached a rural town, and the people.
It's interesting.
And the traffickers were, and the baby was sick, and the traffickers were abusing him. Paper, all the criticism and everything that is bad in the system. I started writing an outline for an NGO that would be different from what I criticized. An organization that would be based on local activism, had a hands-on approach, and fight corruption to get the law applied. An outfit that will have undercover agents that will infiltrate the trade, those criminal networks, and find those kingpins and corrupt officials. Then control the arrest operations and the corruption within the police to make sure that these guys are actually arrested. And afterwards, lawyers and legal advisors that will follow up these cases in court and fight the bribing attempts of the magistrates.
Great.
This is my new job. And I started bluffing them using what I wrote the night before. I'm a part of this big international NGO in the capital. We have a big office, and we fight corruption to get the law applied. And the car is coming to take you, and the judge is waiting, and all my job is to make sure you don't bribe your way out. Oops. I just held my arms up, and he didn't run away. He just climbed my body up to the chest and gave me one big hug. And in a second was transformed from a rat back to a baby again. A baby with needs of emotion, endless needs in love. And I named him Future because that's what I wanted to give him, a future. And this hug became permanent because basically Future was adopting me. So I found myself a father and mother to a baby chimp without really choosing it. Now, in my hand, I had a plan of how to not just give a future to a baby chimp, but how to fight for the future of his species.
All right, well, you guys can watch the rest of this later, and I thought this was also a nice clip.
No, I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up. No, I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Truth. And now let's look into what is Tisha B'Av, and we'll crash in on this.
This day, the 9th day of the Hebrew month of Av, is the anniversary. Many of the tragedies that have befallen the Jewish people happen today, on Tisha B'Av. This day, the 9th day of the Hebrew month of Av, is the anniversary of some of the most tragic events in Jewish history. According to the Bible, it began when the people of Israel lost faith in God while wandering in the desert, and as a result, the 9th day of Av would be a day of sorrow for generations to come. In 586 BC, the first temple was destroyed by the Babylonians. They invaded the ancient land of Israel, burned the holy temple, and exiled the Jews from their homeland. More than 600 years later, in 70 AD, the Romans destroyed the second temple and exiled the Jewish people from their homeland again, marking the start of nearly 2,000 years of Jewish diaspora. Jews without a sovereign Jewish state. And from there, tragedies continued again and again on this very same day. In 135 AD, 500,000 Jews were killed in the Bar Kokhba revolt, making Jerusalem a Roman pagan city. In 1096, the First Crusade began, leading to the massacre of thousands of Jews across Europe. In 1290, Jews were expelled from England by royal decree. In 1492, Jews were expelled from Spain, with the deadline to leave fallen on the 9th day of the month of Av. In 1914, World War I began, setting into motion the chain of events that will eventually lead to the Holocaust. And in 1942, on this very day, mass deportations began from the Warsaw Ghetto to Treblinka, one of the deadliest extermination camps of the Holocaust. Tisha B'Av is a day shaped by grief, a date when generation after generation faced destruction, exile, and loss. But the Jews don't let tragedies define us. We use them as a catalyst to not just survive, but to thrive. We remember these events to help us preserve what others try to erase, to reconnect to our identity, to remember the pain, and to powerfully commit to learning, to growing, and to rebuilding with love. Many of the
Okay, so that was a good description. I wanted to see what this also said.
It's hard to put into words how horrific and tragic the 9th of Av is, so here is a brief history. 17 years before the first temple was destroyed by the Babylonians, God tells Jeremiah to go warn the Jewish people that if they don't stop being so corrupt, God is going to send an enemy to destroy them. Not only did the Jewish people not listen to Jeremiah, but the Jewish king at the time threw him into prison. In prison, Jeremiah writes most of Eicha, which is Lamentations. In Lamentations, Jeremiah prophesies that the destruction will be so horrific that mothers will eat their own children. 17 years later, the Babylonians on Tisha B'Av burn down the temple, slaughter 100,000 Jews, and exile the rest of us to Babylon. 493 years later, the exact same thing happens with the Romans on Tisha B'Av, on the 9th of Av. The Romans burn down the temple, slaughter 1 million Jews. It was an ancient day Holocaust, and send the remaining Jews to exile. The Jewish Roman historian Flavius Josephus describes what he saw that day on the 9th of Av. Around the altar in the temple, the heaps of corpses grew higher and higher, while down the sanctuary steps poured a river of blood. The bodies of those killed at the top slithered to the bottom. The destruction of our holy temples sent us in a 2,500-year-long exile, which we're still suffering through now. But the Gemara tells us that Mashiach is born on Tisha B'Av. One day this will be the happiest day for us, because Mashiach will come and take us out of this horrible exile.
Okay, well, we'll see. And I thought this was very interesting. This is Rachel Goldberg Pollen, who is the mother of the hostage, and she had something to say. This is just a clip before the podcast with the interview with Dan Senior, and if you guys want to watch that, please, but we're just going to watch the first 45 seconds.
Back in the early aughts, when I was a younger teacher, and there was this real challenge of how do you create a feeling in people who maybe don't know about this date, don't care about this date, don't have an emotional bond in any such way to this date. How do you make it feel impactful in any way? And so I would say to my class, who can share where they were on September 11th, 2001? And every hand would go up in the air, even the people who never participated. And that's when the somberness of how a date can define time became very real. And of course, now, tragically, I don't have this challenge at all right now. I can say 6 words to you. Where were you on October 7th? That's it. That is the defining Tisha B'Av moment in this generation.
If you guys want to watch the interview, please. And, yep. And, if you like this kind of content, and, yeah, so I'm happy we crashed. Thanks for crashing out with me, or crashing in with me on that. And I hope everybody had a easy Tisha B'Av, and yeah. And then I think it's sometimes good to show some of the light and the good things that are happening, even within all the darkness that sometimes we cover on this channel. Some things are good and good things are happening in our Jewish community and our Israeli world. And yeah, so if you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe and comment. It really helps the channel grow. Even if you disagree with me, I'm open to having, or if you have any questions about Judaism or anything, or Israel, I'm always open to answering any questions, and I try to reply to everybody. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.